All right. Let's begin. Hey everyone, welcome to our monthly council meeting. We ask that everyone turn off the phones and not talk during the meetings, which the council hold everything. I'd like to ask councilors to also respect discussion and not talk amongst themselves. If this is not respected, I'll ask you to leave the room. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. Mr. CEO, do we have phone?
We have one.
Any council members have any declaration of conflicts? So, you had a chance to look at the agenda. Are there any changes that need to be made? They take a motion now to adopt the agenda. Do we have a mover? Have a second? So what? All right. Are you ready for the question? We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of the motion can show their consent by saying yea.
Yea.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carried. Okay, on the adoption of the minutes. Had a chance to look at the minutes of the regular meeting of April 17th, 2024. They would take a motion to adopt the minutes. Do you have a mover? Second. Councilor Murray. Okay, are you ready for the question? We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor, motion can show their consent by saying yea. All those opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Question from the public. Do we have any questions from the public?
We have no questions from the public.
Okay. If there's any questions from the public now, or welcome, please stand up and state who you are. No one this round, that's all right. We'll move along. Do we have any submissions, petitions, or presentations from the public?
Not at this meeting.
Okay. All right, so on to council members' reports. So since I'm filling in for the mayor, I will be the last on this one. I want to start out with Councilman Christie.
My only report is I sit on the committee, on the finance committee for UNMB, and we had a meeting last week and we discussed the budget, and that's my only report.
Okay. Councilor John.
Much like Councilor Esty, I was at a UNMB zone meeting, and what we discussed was there were changes coming. What we call the gas tax, or what is it called?
CCBF.
CBF now.
CCBF.
CCBF now. Okay. So there are changes coming in how grants are determined. Basically, the federal and provincial governments are taking more interest in how the grants are doled out, and the municipalities will lose out.
Really? All right. Councilor Murray.
Not much to report. I know I've talked to a couple residents lately. They're talking about some of the roads. New Scotland was one of the ones in question. But it looks like they sent out some crews out there to go take care of some of those problems. So once again, if anybody ever has any problems with roads or anything, once again, tag our CCS on all your emails. We're going to send them out. It's good for us to be able to follow up with the DTI, everything else, and just for us to know about common areas or issues and stuff like that. Once again, the more we know, the more we can hopefully try to help you out in any way, shape, or form. So once again, just nice to see that was done. That's pretty much it.
That's what's going on.
Just to echo Councilor Murray's, I haven't heard that, my words from it. Residents are still having concerns about conditions of the road. DTI hasn't done anything in Maple Hills so far this year, and some of the areas are pretty rough. On another note, I was approached by a former co-worker who's a Ward 1 resident. I forget the name of the church, but transmitted the information to CEO and Janelle. They have their own generator, and they want to consider it a site for,
Warming up.
warming, center,
Yeah.
in case of, emergencies.
As you can tell, Terry Moore was unable to attend. I do have a few things that I'd like to add. First and foremost, a little bit of celebration as we are a new entity. I'd like to congratulate Chanel on 1 year. Little fun for you, but thank you very much. So from going on to that, we're aware, and I've talked to a few residents, I've spoke to the principal at Mountain School. We're aware that there is an issue with the students coming across over here, so their emergency plan, as some of you are aware, is to come over to the center, and they're going to be utilizing the center more and more. Currently, TH Sports is entering into conversations about having after-school programs around the area. I'm supposed to be in contact with the principal at Mountain View to get that going as well. So there is a concern about the students crossing the roadways, the speeds, etc. I have received a letter which I'll be passing on, and you can hand out to you guys as well. So this is from Mountain View School, and it's from the PSSC chair, Jake Simon. I'm just going to read this briefly to you guys. So, as a student of concern, I'm writing to urgently bring to your attention the critical matter regarding the safety of our students and community members in our town, particularly concerning the lack of proper signage and safety message on Route 115. As the PSSC chair, I feel it is imperative to ensure the well-being of our students both within the school premises and in their journey to and from school. However, the absence of appropriate signage indicating the school zone around Route 115 poses significant risks to the safety of our students and community members. Recent events, including a tragic car accident resulting in the loss of young life, have underscored the pressing need for immediate action. It is imperative that drivers passing through the area are adequately informed of the school zone and are alerted to the need to reduce speed to ensure the safety of the pedestrians, particularly students commuting to and from the school. Furthermore, the lack of designated crosswalk and flashing lights near the Archtown Community Center, which our school frequently utilizes for various activities, further exacerbates safety concerns. Crossing 115 under these circumstances poses a considerable challenge and places our students and community members at risk of harm. In light of these urgent safety concerns, I respectfully request that the Department of Transportation take immediate action to install appropriate signage indicating the school zone on Road 115, as well as implementing flashing lights to alert drivers to reduce speed. Additionally, the installation of the designated crosswalk and flashing lights near the Archtown Community Center is essential to ensure the safety of pedestrians crossing the road. I urge you to prioritize this matter and expedite the implementation of these crucial safety measures to prevent any further accidents and ensure the safety of our students and community. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I'm available to provide any further information assistance required to address these safety concerns. Sincerely, Jake Simon, PSS Chair of this group. As the council said, make it clear how I feel about this. I've talked to residents very recently about this in all different parts of Ward 1, and even coming up with different ideas of potentially reducing the speed limit from communication to approximately Archtown grocery store and having signage specifically for the school. There is going to be conversations coming as this comes up. This is kind of a heads up to everyone of where the community is looking to go with this and the school and so on and so forth. I know Councilor Jonga has had some experience with this in the past, so we'll definitely be reaching out to you on this as well. Yeah, from that point on, that's what I got there. So we'll now proceed on to items on the agenda. Mr. CAO, can you present the item on the agenda?
So the first item on the agenda is the 2023 financial statements. So with us, we have Serge Richard with the accounting firm, and correct me if I'm wrong, Shaw Professional Corporation. So they obviously are the auditors for the 2023 financial statements. The statements that he's about to present are included in the packages that were loaded this afternoon. So Serge, the floor is yours. So he'll present, and if you have any questions after his presentation, feel free to ask questions.
Next to you all. So if you want to read the report, this, title consolidated financial statements.
I don't have anything on one.
I don't have any.
They're now gone. I saw them this afternoon, right?
Yeah, I was there, I read it this afternoon, it's not there now.
What are you hiding?
I checked last night, there was nothing, and then.
Give me 1 second, I'll reload them. You guys are all logged on to. Yep.
That's why some technology.
That the actual surplus was much greater than the budgeted. That's one thing I remember.
Yeah. It's a nice little.
Yeah.
So. And you'll be reviewing the tangible capital asset.
Yeah, all three.
Okay. Apologies.
Perfect.
So this, the one, like I said, it's the consolidated financial statements. So if you go to page 4, page 4, okay, page 4. So that's the statement of operations for the year, the consolidated account for the entities. So total revenues for the year was 3,860,000. Expenditures were 3,065,000. So there's a $795,000 surplus for the entire as well. But I want to maybe go page 14. Page 14 breaks down by fund. So general operating fund. The last line at the bottom, that's where you're counting surplus for based on fund accounting means 154,000. I think that's been very you with it. You got it over. The second column is the general capital fund. The reason that's so high is because in our principles, the grant is recognized a year acquisition compared to the expenditures for the life of the useful life of the assets. So usually increase and you got probably $600,000 for the community center in 2023. So that's why it's so high. Another in this report, maybe we can go to the next page, which is the statement of reserves. You had the general operating reserve, $45,000 contribution this year. And I talked to you, but also the limit is 155,000 because it's 5% of your operating budget for the following year. So next year you'll be able to, if you want to conduct up 155,000, but compared to general capital reserve is only. So if ever you start like this year, you have a surplus, you could have put a little bit more, but there's no limits on the general capital reserve. You can always put some all. Besides that, there's not that much of this report, so maybe we go more detailed with general operating. The report says general operating.
Which is the second account.
So page 2, that's the statement of revenues and expenditures. So we had budgeted 3,185,000, and the actual was 3,269,000. Warrants and community equalized grants are identical to the budget. The only difference is the building permits, which is 50% more than the budget. You had budgeted 65,000, about 96,000. Province of Brunswick grants, those were mostly comprised of 26,000 for funding for study, the O&M study.
and 17,000 for transitional funding for the accounting setup, and maybe another 4 or 5,000 for other reform funding. So that's how we got to the 52,000. Second previous surplus that was money the province gave to the local services districts, 2021 surplus that you got this year. Next year, you're going to get the same thing, your 2022 surplus. 2025, then you're going to get your own 154,000 surplus is going to come in as a revenue in your budget. So for now, it's not your own, it's money that it's actually grants that you got from the government for 2021 there's surplus. Now we're going to go to the next page, sector by sector. So general government, the budgeted 899,000 compared your actual expenses were 800,000. One difference is the 26,000, but like I said, that was fully subsidized from the province. Salaries reconciled with, I think, your bylaws. Maybe it was budgeted a little less, but it actually reconciled with the bylaws. And there was salaries like for personnel, just because it wasn't fully, I think Shell came in, like I said, in May and maybe, I don't know, started September, that's why there's already less than the budget. Another thing was the accounting was 75,000, 79,000, that was pretty close as well. And this year there's no external audits because we're not allowed to accrue the first year because the work is only done after a year end. So there's no, next year you'll have the expense for this year's on. In the past, we used to do that like 4 or 5 years ago, graduated most of now it's actual expenses that we incur. So that's for general government. The next one is protective services, which is compared with the budget. You had budgeted 1,054,000 and you spent 1,053,000. Next page, transportation services. Same thing, it's comparable to the budget. I don't think you need traffic line any word for traffic signs this year. You had budgeted $5,700 and nothing was spent, but streetlights was pretty comparable to the budget. Environmental health services, it's identical to the budget as well because it's all numbers were known before the budget's process. Same thing for the environmental development services, it's comparable to the budget. Recreation, it's material differences of $900 compared to only a budget of $1,000. So that's, and fiscal services, fiscal services, we didn't budget any reserve contribution, but you put 45,000 in. And general capital fund, those are items that are paid, that general operating fund paid for the general capital. So let's go more in detail on the next page. Interest amount from debt is budgeted 50,000, but nothing this year, maybe always a little bit this next year and more to that when you get your $2.5 million debenture in 2024, then you'll start getting more interest in capital principal payments. Maybe look at the balance sheet now. The balance sheet, which is that page one. Your account service the first year, so it's 154,000. You had 548,000 in bank. If you settle all your current assets and current liabilities, that's what you had, 154,000. And this year there's no debt service ratio. This morning, usually we calculate how much of your debt service, how much is your budget services the debt, but this year it's zero because there's no principal or interest off your debt. Next thing is maybe just a one pager with the capital additions. Yeah, so that is just line by line how we consolidate the additions. So land is $13,000. That was just an estimate that was done because of the fair market value based on the universal assessment value for the land and on bidding that you got. Plus you pay $2,500 in legal fees that was subsidized from the province. Furniture, equipment, and computer electronics total $8,600. That's what general operate paid $4,900 and $3,600 was government grants. work in progress, we made a deposit on furniture of 18,000, which was subsidized back by the province of $9,400. And the remaining is going to go against your $22,000 debenture that's not, hasn't been exercised yet. The other larger amount would be the community center. We had 3 progress building plus the whole back. So those 4 amounts equal $782,000. You got the remaining balance of the $490,000, $265. You got the CCBF funding of $299,000. So there's $270,000 that's going to raise $2.5 million. That means there's about $2.2 million left, because I don't think that's all the funding you're going to get. So everything else is going to go into the and it wasn't required. That's why we didn't put the other 4. Like next year we'll add the other 4. What you inherited, that was already paid for. Plus the value required facility. Plus the value of this building, recognition of the value of this building as well, because you're giving this building. So that's a brief summary of your 2023 financial statements. I don't know if there's any questions. Because your accountant's pretty big, so there's no surprise that you like you can keep an eye on the creed. But whatever you saw, Lisa, that would come. It's surplus or deficit. They don't know before we get there. So, but you guys pretty accurate. That's good to hear.
Pardon my ignorance, but what is service provided to other government?
In which category?
It's in the, in revenue. 182,259.
By not 200, it's probably like that's
No,
particular services.
this line says services provided to other government.
Is that in the,
Page 4
Page 4, yes,
of the.
of the second document. The financial statements.
Exactly what that is.
services provided to other governments?
Yeah.
Is that like fire and stuff like that? See,
So I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to look at it. What exactly that. That might be just, it should be other government grants. It should be other government grants, other government transfers instead of, because you don't have any services. Like, so
We're not selling
you're not like, that they have services, you guys probably should be others. I'll have to change it. Yeah, the amount should be added to the, whatever government transfer is,
Yeah.
580,000.
Thank you very much.
So if you have any questions, the general practice is to accept these statements.
So the changes that we,
Yes, with the change.
I'll make the changes and new copies.
So the resolution that I have there should be as modified instead of as presented.
We'll just update the copies on SharePoint.
Okay.
Yeah.
So move.
So really,
Be resolved that Maple Hills Council accepts the financial report as modified of the auditor account for the 2023 financial year as presented by Mr. Sills of the Shaw, CPA of both Fisher and Bhutan.
Second,
Was that good?
ready for questions?
Question.
And now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of the motion, will show the consent by saying yea. All those opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
Decision.
Thanks, you. All right, on to next.
So the next up on the agenda is appointment of financial auditors 2024. So as the local governments act states, municipality to be operational, you need to have three things: a clerk, a treasurer, and an auditor. So normally we appoint an auditor every year. We don't appoint an auditor for a certain period of time. I know Councillor SC maybe proposed a policy that might see some turnover after a 3 to 5 year period. Right now, we've received a quote from what we shall do for the next 3 years. So I would propose that after those 3 years, during the budget process, we ask for other submissions from our auditors and council to decide if they want to, as they want in that year. So, are there any questions?
So my question was, with regards to the independence that I sent around today, without going into it too far, like auditors have to be independent from the entity, both in like materially and, even in terms of like the optics. And so I would say it's probably prudent just to make sure that it's not just a matter of getting a quote. It's a matter that we don't have the same auditor or firm doing it for more than 3 years, just because it becomes familiar. That can be a perceived threat to independence because they all know us so well. So I would just like to prevent that. And having worked at one of the larger firms and having audited some larger cities in New Brunswick, they also have the same policies where they would limit it. So I think that's something that we should probably look at.
As a practice, I think it's a great concept.
And this,
Anybody else?
So we would just be a motion, just to.
I'll move. You mind reading it?
Be it resolved that the Council of Maple Hills appoints the firm Bork, Bouchard, Buteau, PC, Inc. as auditor for the 2024 financial year. My apologies if that name was not correct.
Do we have a second?
Second.
So there is. We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of the motion, be show their consent by saying yea.
Hey.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion carried. Next, zoning application.
Oh, there you
Just kill them all.
So before, as Phil is preparing, I'll just, conversation. So we received an application for a rezoning. The normal course is it comes to council. Council asks the planning review and adjustment committee to provide a recommendation. We notify residents, we set a date for a public hearing, and we draft a proposed bylaw. So tonight is the public hearing for that zoning application as set out in the motion that was read in at the meeting. So Phil will present their report on the application. He'll also provide the recommendation from PRAC. Once that is concluded, I will read any correspondence that were received on the application. I did load it in your tablets. I hope you will see it. Then we'll open up the floor if anybody in the hall has any questions or concerns concerning the rezoning application. And that will essentially conclude the public hearing part of it. Council will then have the opportunity to either move forward or conclude the rezoning. So there's 5 motions, proposed motions. 4 of them are to move forward with it. And the last one is if council do not want to move forward with it, there's a sample of a motion there that we can use to not move forward with it. So Phil, the floor is yours and you can present the floor.
Good evening, member of council. So tonight, like you summarized very well, is the public hearing. So I'm just going to go through the proposal and present the recommendation at the end. So really the intent is just to present you the requests and present the recommendation and give the opportunity to people to give their comments or objections on their requests. So the request tonight is by Haley McLaughlin on behalf of the property owner, which is Lloyd Faulkner. And it's for rezoning to the Fairland condo zone, and we'll go more into detail of what that means exactly. So it's for property on Isaiah Road, PID 70425087, and the current zoning is rural area, and they're looking to rezone it to dwelling group zone, and in this order to allow that 2-unit Fairland condominium. So this would be scheduled in the bylaw. So the property is located just west of the city of Moncton. It's close by to Berry Mills and Moose Mountain on the Isaiah Road. And overall in the surrounding area, there's some big vacant lands, a lot of trees, and mostly single unit dwellings in the area. So the area is characterized mostly by low density and rural area. So the current zoning of the property is the rural area. It's the most prevalent zone in Maple Hills. It allows a large array of different uses. It allows residential use up to 4 units, but they all have to be contained in one lot. It allows other things such as agriculture use for light commercial uses. So that is the main zoning in the area, and that's also what the zoning of the property is. This is just to show you some photos. So currently there is an existing single unit dwelling, an existing house on the property owned by Lloyd. And we see here on the property, and there's also accessory buildings in the back. And we also have a dwelling, which I also believe is part of the family just nearby to the right. So we're on the street facing toward the house. Now we're facing towards the east, so we see there's a lot of trees and mostly a rural area. The municipality, same thing here. So visibility is good. That's one of those things. So we'll talk about the specific proposal. So ultimately, what the proponent is looking to do is to build the house on the property. So we don't have specific plans yet, but where this blue square is around where the proponent wants to build a house. So the lot is kind of a flat lot configuration, like a V-shaped configuration, and they would kind of want to build behind here. So behind the dwelling, and the challenge is we can only have one dwelling per lot, so it either needs to be subdivided or in this case, they apply for a fair lot. Usually when you're subdividing a lot, it needs to be 54 meters. In this case, we have 73.8 meters of width. So if each lot has to be 54 meters, that means the lot would need to be 108 meters to be able to subdivide, which was not possible in this case. So we've explored options for variances also. So variance, we could reduce the width of the required lot. And usually the way you do that, you kind of leave. In this case, it was kind of a future road setup. So you would kind of do like a flag lot configuration where you would leave 20 or 24 meters wide here to leave the potential of developing this as an access in the future if ever that happens, and you would leave the whole back portion as locked. This was not possible because there's currently a garage that would be in a way an accessory building, so they wish to explore better options, and that's where the Bearline condo was proposed in this case. So a Bearline condo, what it is essentially one lot that you convert to a condominium corporation. And then you have something that's in common within the condo corporation. So in this case, the dark gray would represent an access, so a private access. And then you would divide the rest of the property in different units. So in this case, there's a unit 1 that would be for the new house, and unit 2 would be for the remainder of the property, where we see the house of the current property owner in the project here. And I mentioned that usually accesses, we want them to be 20 or 24 meters. In this case, because of the garage, they reduced it to 12.5 meters to kind of go around the garage and back to reach the back property. So I kind of summarized what a Bearline condo is, but I'll take a bit more time here. So Bearline condo is different from a traditional condominium. So when people think of condominium, it's usually a building and you divide the different units within the building, and everybody owns kind of from drywall to drywall. And then you would have the common area, which is usually the hallway leading to units, and like the parking lot and kind of all the landscaping outside. The difference between a Bearline condo and its condominium is kind of same in concept, but except having like the hallway, you would have private access, and instead of having drywall you have a bare line. So you essentially create units that serve kind of the equivalent as the lots. And then with the Bearline condominium, you have this corporation where they're legally obliged to pay condo fees each year, and then kind of build funds, and this is meant to be used to maintain roads and the common goods that would have. So the process, usually you hire a lawyer, you develop a bylaw, you register your condo corporation, and then each unit would own a percentage of the condo corporation, and then would share the common good, which is the access in this case. So as part of the zoning processes, we consult with some departments and some provincial departments. So in this case, the Department of Environment didn't see any concerns or issues with the request. Department of Transportation mentioned that there's good sight distance and good visibility, but they did point out that the access is not as wide as what we would typically see for an access. If it were a public street, it would require at least 24 meters. Again, this is about half at 12.5 meters. And we consulted with the fire chief, the purpose of consulting with the fire chief or the local fire chief is just to make sure that the access leading to the property is safe, so that they can turn around and go and reach their property safe. So I don't believe we received comments from them yet.
Good question. And I apologize.
Yeah.
So on the fire marshal, the fire chief side, remind me if comments are still, waiting for comments, it can be added as a condition.
Yes.
To
the bylaw, so I believe we've added
that requests that needs to be done prior to the issue.
Correct.
So it doesn't need to hold up the bylaw process.
That's correct. And they may suggest improvements or stuff like that if there's. Yeah. And I'm just going to conclude here. So Bearline condominium is usually a tool used in certain situations when you want to do innovative design and when traditional development is not an option. So usually shared access would be where you would try to get maybe like a trail system or more like conservation goal, and they can kind of use the flexibility of the Bearline condominium to do something different. It's not really used as a mechanism to circumvent typical subdivision standards. So in this case, there were options that were just that building kind of in the way that was stopping development happening. So if the accessory building in the garage would have been demolished, we could have done a simpler option, subdivision and a variance to accommodate something similar to what they wanted. But they really important that they keep the accessory building, so this is where the option came from. Again, this is not meant to just accommodate any development that's not meeting typical subdivision guidelines. So the recommendation from the planning review and adjustment committee was essentially to recommend to council to deny the rezoning and to deny the bylaw and 24 WAP 069 and H02. And the purpose is because it was not meeting policies from the plan which speaks to subdivision guidelines, and also that it was not an appropriate use of the barrel condominium, and that in this case, typical subdivision standard could have been applied with a variance, but they choose to use this option instead. That concludes the presentation and the recommendation from that.
Any questions?
So theoretically, if they were to remove the garage or that building, what's the practical difference between, so if you were to propose a new subdivision zoning, how would it actually look different than what's being proposed now? Like, just like in like a literal sense.
Yep, it's a good question. So, first, so the lot where the existing house would be similar to this house, the lot here that's right next door. And we could preserve a 20 or 24 meter corridor that was, they actually left the future street access here so that we wouldn't compromise the back portion of the lot for future development. So we would allow essentially the proponent to get what they want when a house is down the back, but we would allow this corridor that could be converted to better things down the line, while this option kind of ties them into this condo corporation where there's 2 unit holder, and let's say when unit gets sold down the line, it's 2 people that don't agree, but you can't really change anything with the condo corporation that's only at these 2 property owners.
And I believe the existing structure that's behind is prohibiting that 24.
Yeah.
So then my other question is that structure footed, the one in question, or?
If there's a foundation, it's quite large, I would assume, yes, but I don't.
Like, what's the rough ballpark of that?
The dimensions?
Yeah.
I don't know on top of my head. The proponent is here, maybe should give you a. How big is the garage, Rob?
Can't hear you.
Third, how big is the garage?
We're gonna enter the shed, 24 by 34.
24.
Yeah, 24 by 34. Yeah, on the back.
Okay, is it like a foundation, but
It should have.
flat? Yeah. It's flat.
I'm willing to move that.
Yeah.
That's that whole thing, no.
Sorry, what are you saying?
He's willing.
He's willing to move it if need be.
He said if it's altered everything as well.
Yeah. So just to give an example, so should council refuse the rezoning, he would have options to move the structure, creating that 24 meter corridor, which would open up another avenue to develop the, and a Bearland condo would not be required at that
Correct.
aspect. So he wouldn't have to go through rezoning, it would simply be subdividing the lot. So this option that's being proposed doesn't require him to move the structure. Right. It creates an avenue where you can have what's called a private lane leading up to a lot.
So today, we're only talking about just moving this forward, right? We have first reading and second reading.
Yeah.
And then it's gonna come back anyway.
Yes, yes. Now, I will point out that because PROC recommended not to move forward with it, the overlying authority to approve zoning belongs to council. So they are allowed to overrule PROC, but because it's a contrary recommendation, because it go against, you need the majority of the entire council. So tonight we have quorum of 5, but assuming we only had 4 councillors, the majority of the entire council is 4. So if at third reading, we would only have 4 councillors and it would be voted 3-1. In theory, the vote passes, but the rezoning does not, because it's not the majority of the entire council. So for it to go through at third reading, if council wishes for third, only for third reading, tonight it could go through 3-2. But technically the deputy mayor doesn't vote, so it could go tonight 3-1. It would not make a difference, but at third reading, the mayor does get a vote because of that, because of that dynamic.
Yeah. Okay.
Councillor Sabah?
If whatever, the motion would move forward and is accepted, does this create a precedent? Can subsequent requests from other people, would they have like a bigger leg to stand on?
They have no leg to stand on because council has the overall authority to decide zoning on any property on a case by case basis. So it would go through the same process. It would go through PRAC. PRAC would either accept or deny or refuse or recommend to refuse the application, but the overall authority belongs to council. And they can decide yea or nay on any rezoning application of this nature. So you're not setting a precedent by doing so. You're doing it case by case basis.
One of my questions would be, I don't know how I direct this, but like essentially at this point, have the applicants done the condominium bylaws and everything? Like, have they done all that with the?
That would be a requirement. So essentially, we haven't gone through a complete rezoning process.
Yeah.
So the rezoning process is we create a bylaw with 3 readings. Once the bylaw is adopted, there are conditions that council set forth on the property. One of those conditions would be, and they're in the proposed bylaw in their packages. Some of the recommendations that are there is they need to set up a condominium association, and they'll remember I talked about the fire chief, all those things would need to happen before Plan 360 would issue any building permit to said property if it moves forward.
Yeah, my question more is if they've already done it essentially?
No, they would only do it after, but it would be a condition that they must do it.
Yeah, I was wondering if you incurred the cost of that, if you spent 10, 15, whatever.
There should be no cost incurred other than the fee for the rezoning application and any potential drawings that would be required.
You have to hire a lawyer to draft.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was done before this or
No,
during
that's
this.
done.
Any questions?
So that,
too, right?
yes, so that being said, I did receive a correspondence this afternoon, which I will read in the public hearing process. So again, we received it in the mail today. It's dated March 15th. I assume it's probably meant May 18th, May 14th, but it's addressed to Maple Hills Rural Community Care of Legier with our address. Dear Mr. Yves Legier, I'm writing to express my opposition to the rezoning of property PID 704-25087 from the rural area zone RA to dwelling group zone DG. I am also strongly opposed to the intent of amending the ministerial regulation 21 06900. A Bearline condominium on Isaiah Road is most definitely not fit in with this natural community setting, but also will encourage further developers to submit more rezoning requests in this area. Further development will destroy the natural habitat, ruin the quiet rural setting,
reduce our quality of life, bring more traffic to our roads, which will require more frequent road repairs, sidewalks, perhaps even pedestrian light crossings in the future. There will be less and less natural areas for wildlife, reducing their natural habitat, forcing them to encroach in our backyards and endanger our children. This area is clearly a rural area, and the residents who chose to live in this area wish it to remain as such. Our rural areas are essentially to preserve our way of life in Maple Hills and the natural landscape surrounding it. The main reasons most of us chose to live in Maple Hills is because we did not want to be in a city atmosphere, but to live in a quiet area in close relations to nature and the beauty of landscape and forest. With the growth and expansion of new building developments in Moncton, we are at a crucial stage for Maple Hills at this moment. Just in the last few years, we are quickly seeing our countryside disappear from private landowners clearing their forests to make way for new building developments at a rate never seen before. The current climate crisis also requires more trees and natural areas to help absorb carbon, and yet we are seeing them disappear more rapidly in the last few years, and that is extremely alarming. All of us can clearly see where this is going. I'm sure I am not the only one who does not wish this to happen on Isaiah Road, Irish Town, or all other beautiful areas of Maple Hills. What is preventing further development from slowly overtaking our Maple Hills countryside? A growing concern is that we do not act now by preserving our current rural zones. Our beautiful Maple Hills countryside will slowly be enveloped by subdivisions and condominiums. The zoning laws currently in the Ministerial Regulations 21 WAP 06900 are intended to keep these areas listed as rural zones for exactly the purpose of protecting the event of further development. We should be enforcing more protection laws at times like this, not removing them. Therefore, I am strongly opposed to any rezoning of rural areas into dwelling group zones. Let the city of Moncton develop, but for the sake of our beautiful Maple Hills, our citizens, and our wildlife, let our natural habitat remain as such. Let's keep and protect our rural areas from permanently disappearing now. Thank you sincerely, Melody Cormier, Cape Breton Road, Irish Town.
Just to respond to the letter, you know, based on what I'm seeing here, whether it could be rezoned as a subdivision or whether it goes through as a bare land, it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot of tree destruction other than the driveway and the code of how many trees have to be removed. So from the vantage point of Isaiah Road, it would be quite hidden. And I think it's also important that, you know, frankly, I'd like to see something there. I think if people want to live in Maple Hills and they've lived here their whole life, I think it's important that they have a way of doing that. There's a mechanism, and obviously there is, as you pointed out, with this subdivision thing. Because, you know, if this doesn't happen, we're gonna have people that live in Maple Hills just move to other places, you know, and that probably hurts the community in some respects. So I guess that's kind of my comment to this, is that, you know, I think the amount of houses that you build anywhere, you are going to have a bit of natural destruction into trees, schools, hospitals, all these things that we view as necessities do also result in, you know, tree loss. So I think just that on the surface wouldn't be that compelling enough for me.
If I can just add, I mean, I cannot comment on the intentions or, you know, what the intention of the resident that wrote the letter, but, you know, obviously we're seeing a trend, when you use the land condominium, they have a perception that it might be,
Yes.
You know, multifamily, few stories, you know, multi-unit type dwellings. You know, obviously this project or this proposed development is not that. It's a way to develop in a different way because of the current landscape that exists. So, you know, I cannot speak to the intent, but
you know, I've seen this in the past where the word condominium, a negative connotation in rural areas for larger developments.
That's exactly what I was gonna say, in a sense. The wording, you know, people forget the bare land part, the quantum aspect, so.
I guys have questions to or the applicant.
Really,
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the natural process would be if there's any residents that want to speak on it. But then if there's any questions after, I welcome it.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, the only thing I'd have to say about the letter, just since that was just the last thing, kind of showing up here. I can understand, once again, I can see where they're coming back from it, and they probably think that they don't want to see, like Councillor Savoy mentioned earlier, didn't want to see a precedent, right? We say yes to this, do we say yes to every single developer that says, hey, I want to make, 100 unit fair land condo association, so I can somewhat understand where that come from. Obviously, this is a different situation. That's not the intent for the applicants today, but yeah, I can obviously see where they're coming from, but obviously this is like a case basis, so.
Just also one comment on the letter. Like no way, mean to disrespect the person's feelings regarding this development. But I think there is plenty of room in the municipality to grow, and you can't keep the same number of dwelling in the municipality forever. There has to be a growth. If people want to keep the same way of life, they're gonna have to understand that we need more revenue base to keep the same level of service to where we are right now. At some point, there is some development that has to happen. It's up to us to decide how far we can go.
So if there's no more questions, obviously the residents or the people at the meeting, if they have, they want to voice any concerns or comments, now would be the time to do so. And if there are none, then we'll conclude the public hearing portion of the application. Is there anything you guys like to say? Well, come on up, state your name.
I don't hear a lot, but you should think I'm all in. I want to thank people for their time and calls. Just want to add one thing, or a couple of things going. It is when my daughter wanted to build a house next door. She had moved in a mobile home front, which piece of land they had given her. And that's, so she said, I gave her a bigger beach space to build a house. That's simple, I think some picture there, but there now. And so to get into the real part of that is I'm not a person who wants to see Easter ground road waste, because I think in the future, and that was in 2005 when she got the okay to build that house and from leaving them off of there, whatever it was. And so she went forward with that. But the one thing I said to her, when I gave that to her, and I said, Tina, I look up and down besides there, we've been there since 1982 or something like that, they got the tower first. So I said, this is going to stay like this forever. So make sure that you talk the person that was in charge of town planning, and I think then it was Bill Budd, which I hear he's still there, I don't even know that they're retired. And when my daughter called him, she said, my dad told me to call you, or call the town planning, and make this proposition, words for that proposal to have a road go down between her property, which I gave her, and my property, my wife's, okay? At that point in time, he said back to Tina, my daughter, he said, we would head it up on the map, where we live, knew the area, and I said to her, no, I'm not a good communicator, but I'm doing the best. is I said to her, I haven't got time to fool with this. It's either they give us a private road, I thought it was private road, or private access, I found it later. And I said, if you don't want to do it now, don't come back to me later. Because I said, he basically said to her, after looking at the road, he says, Tina, I know you were, talked to her because it was today, I guess. And he said, we would love to be able to go down through there, the road, for future plan, okay, which is now. And so here we are, 2005, 2024, and my daughter put her beautiful home and the approved access road. It's all pinned and everything, an access. I thought it was a local road one down, but you got an access to the road. And what that set up is for now, in the future, and long time to have to work on, cities don't plan for 5 or 10 years, they plan for 20 or 30 or 40 years. And with that road, it was the only good spot on Isaiah Road that you could actually put a road down through and have good sight view from both ends. I understand that. And there's other places that dip through the road and other places that you couldn't see. So it was a perfect location for the town planner to be able to put a road on there. Okay? There is private access there approved. You can see that, right?
It's it's shown here on the subdivision plan, when the lot for your daughter was created back in 2005.
Yes.
And it was only to identify the potential of the future street. It was never actually created.
But it was approved and stamped.
Not approved, it was just shown on the plan, so it's nothing official. But I guess we're agreeing, but it's just, we draw that straight line just through the garage.
You know, there's a site, my daughter has a plan for that. Not, I'm sure it is, but not being naive here, but it is, if there is a road designed for that to go down through, okay? And that's what I thought we were going to be able to do, okay? And when I just, got another question for police, I said, well, just do all the work and I'll do what I can, okay? So we're here now. And I understand some of the stuff going on here tonight, communication is good, even though that people should have the right to communicate. And they did, and they said that the piece doesn't mean I agree with them, but the point is we've got to move forward as a community. Here we are, something so less deep thing now. It's the best thing that ever happened for us. Some people may hate it, but it's the best thing is because we have a community to work with. But all I'm saying is, if there's another way we can do this, I would love to do it. I talked to Phil here last week, not from Plan 360, and he gave me some more input on this. So I didn't have time to get back to him, but in the meantime, I called my lawyer, and he's retired. So that company said, "Can we get you another lawyer?" Okay, and I he was going down, and they've been good to me over the years, and we did subdivision in Hamilton. So, I lost my train of thought here, but anyway, I have a lawyer now, and her name is Kelsey, and I just sent her some information and our plan, the big plan, what do you call it? The engineer, surveyor, yeah. So the surveyor got the plan, I haven't written in the truck, but I'll see it. And so that's all right there. And if there's any other way that I can my waistline, speak from me is my waistline. Can have her to build a nice home behind our house, behind your mother's house. And if there's another way that we can do it without costing us some money to get a road down that far, I'm willing to work with anybody on that. Okay? And the other thing is Dave, you gave us a lot of info on this stuff. And I appreciate your time on it too. But if there's any way that we can get her to have a home there, I would love to be able to find a way to do it. Okay? Keep in mind, I'm going to take this time. Keep in mind that we have to move forward. We're not, Isaiah Road is going to be all trees and chasing rabbits around the woods with my kids get what they go up there. Okay? That's them days are going to be gone. Okay? So I'm sorry, I took some time.
It's okay.
I'm not naive to the person that vote in. I hope they, and they have the right to do that, I appreciate that. It puts a respect on things. But to move forward, it's not going to do all trees, but we love trees because we do some maple syrup. And it broke my heart to cut the 50 trees down for her house, okay? That's all I'm gonna say for now.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay? I didn't warn us.
No, that's okay.
Councilor Delano?
I see that, Councilman Murray also wants to say something, but, I basically, you know, you're a great communicator. We all understood what you were saying.
Okay, thank you.
We know how important this is to your family. And I just want to add that, you know, I want to express to my fellow councilors that perhaps we go through the first and second reading, and then we see where Phil and the residents can get prior to going to a third reading. So that's all I'd like to.
Councilor?
Just want to check. So clarify something. So if he moved the garage over on the other side of that red dotted line, do they have to put an engineered road in or anything like that? Or it's just, as long as that's just the access, he doesn't have to do an actual road?
Exactly, so what I proposed is we should create another lot identical to the one
There.
their daughter on the other side.
Yeah.
So we would have kind of a lot going like this, kind of through here, and then here we could have a big portion in the back, and so you don't need to develop a public road, just a lot in the shape of this
Okay.
flag,
Yeah.
and they can build the driveway, because it's private land, and becomes a driveway.
Yeah.
They can build it to any standard they want, you don't even have to consult with fire chief or finish.
Okay.
I just want to summarize, that's still a variance, but it's only to go to Pratt, but we expressed that we would be able to.
Would it also be a potential to have it, like him keep the larger portion of it too, and just her lot be the smaller one? Like essentially if the road came up and essentially the access point became her lot, like, and it cut off, and then he could still continue to have the back end of it?
I know what you mean, but the way we justified this as being an appropriate variance in subdivision is because we're allowing a new lot while preserving the back portion.
Yeah.
And that the back portion being attached to the access, so
Okay.
it still allows the potential to utilize the lot down the line.
Okay. Yep.
Say subdivision or other things, yeah.
Yeah, just wanted to check in on that. But they wouldn't have to put an engineered road in?
No,
Okay.
I don't.
Okay. I'm just thinking cost wise for them, once again, if it's, you know, once again, it's not a small feat, I'm sure, to move a garage over, but if you start talking about having to do different roadways and lawyers and condo fees and everything else, it might end up being the same after a couple of years type of thing.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
And to Councilor Jang, if council wants to move forward, you know, I would recommend that it continues concurrently, should they want to do other alternatives. But obviously, just letting you know, there's a recommendation from Prague. Contrary, but council has the overall authority to determine a zoning for this property.
Any other questions?
No?
Okay. Take a motion to adopt this item. Okay, do you mind reading?
Sure. I move that we proceed with first reading by title of bylaw 24 WAP 069 MH 02.
Do we have a second? Yes. Councilor Savoy. We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of the motion can show their consent by saying aye.
Yes.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
All right, so I will read the first reading by title of bylaw 24 WAP 069 MH 2. A bylaw number, bylaw to amend ministerial regulation 21 WAP 069 00, the Westmoreland Harbor Plan and Area Rural Plan Regulation. It's a mouthful, apologize. The council of the rural community of Maple Hills, under the authority vested in it by section 44 and in accordance with section 59 of the Community Housing Act, SNB 2017, Chapter 19, amends Ministerial Regulation 21 WAP 069-00, Westmoreland Albert Planning Area Rural Plan Regulation, and it acts as follows. That is the first reading.
Okay.
We then need just a motion to adopt.
We have a motion for that.
I move that we adopt the first reading by title, bylaw 24-WAP-069 MA-02.
Give me a second. Second. Council Donovan. Oh, so you can vote. All those in favor of the motion, show their consent by saying yea.
Yeah.
All those opposed, say nay. Carried.
So if councilors wish to, we are allowed to do 2 readings at this meeting, so.
I move the second reading.
Please go ahead, Ray.
I move that we proceed with the second reading by title of bylaw 24 WAP 069 NH 02.
Okay, is that second?
I'll second.
Mr. Sabana. We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of the motion, show their consent by saying yea. All those opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
So I will now proceed a second reading of bylaw number 24 WAP 069 MH-02, a bylaw to amend ministerial regulation 21 WAP 069-00, the Westmoreland Albert Planning Area Rural Plan Regulation. The Council of the Rural Community of Maple Hills, under the authority vested in it by section 44 and in accordance with section 59 of the Community Planning Act, SNB 2017, Chapter 19, amends Ministerial Regulation 21-WAP-069-00, the Westmoreland Albert Planning Area Rural Plan Regulation, and act as follows. That concludes second reading of the
Okay. We take a motion to adopt the second reading. We have a mover. Councilor Donner, we have a second. Second. So that's it. We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of the motion, show their consent by saying yea. All those opposed, say nay. Motion carried.
So we would do the last one.
Two administrative policies.
Merci, Phil.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
You're okay.
It's more of a comment, but I was kind of hoping maybe we could talk after, if you have time to stick around. There's not much left to communicate. No.
I'm okay with taking 5 minutes.
I'm a break.
Yeah.
We can probably minute breaks.
All right, so
Look at you.
administration policy.
So at the last, thank you, Mayor. So at the last committee of the whole meeting, we presented modifications to 2 policies. One of them being the grant policy, which we modified the application process to be a bit more robust and provide more financial details. The second one would be the employee policy. It didn't align with several different provincial policies, notably the maternity leave section. So we requested a modification to align to the provincial guidelines. There was also some language that we wanted tweaked on the summer hours. Currently, the summer hours go from 7:30 to 4 p.m. So in consultation with staff, they would prefer to be from 8 to 4:30. So just a light language change in that section. There would also be a section on the professional development that any paid professional development to staff, you need to provide successful completion documentation to put in their employee file. And the last one would be to modify the former service manager's job description to treasurer. Because no longer have a service manager, we have a treasurer, and we did not have a job description for that. So those are the four minor adjustments that we are proposing for those two policies. We also have as mentioned, we did have a application for a grant that we'd like to treat at the same time, but I think the first two, we should adopt those policies, then we can have a discussion on the application.
Okay, on the first one regarding policy 07. I'm taking a motion to adopt that. Go over. I'll move. Yeah, Councilor, do you have a second?
I'll take it.
Oh, Councilor Murray. Would any councilors like to speak on the motion? Anyone? That's a say sure.
It's a no,
Oh,
no, sir. Sorry.
We'll now proceed to the vote. All those in favor of the motion show their consent by saying yea.
Yeah.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carried.
And then we need to do the same for the P02.
So, 02 employee manual as presented. Do we have maybe a motion to adopt the updated move? Councilor Savoy, do a second. Councilor John. Any councilors like to speak on the item? We'll now take an opportunity to vote. All those in favor of the motion, you show their consent by saying yea.
Yeah.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carried.
Perfect, thank you, Council. So I'll now give the floor to Chanel. I will go through the grant application that was received. And she'll also provide some insight on another application that was received, but it's still on hold, as she might be providing more information.
Okay, so I'll start with the Good Deed Divas application that we received last time. We had tabled it because we wanted to wait and see if we could have them funding transfer to St. Philip Prud'homme versus sending it directly to the Good Deed Divas because they're not in the breakthrough. I have not received any confirmation of that yet. I'm still waiting. The Prud'homme is having a meeting tonight, and they're going to be discussing that there. So that's all I have for them. So
It's going to be tabled for another meeting.
taking it till the next meeting. So the application we just received was from the Prud'homme Center. They're looking to renovate the infrastructure. So they're looking to renovate the bathrooms in the center. So in your application, you see they have a quote, thank you. They were how much the renovations would cost. And I think they were good with
And they would be doing a lot of the labor themselves, so that's why there's no labor, it's just materials. I believe they have volunteers that have carpentry backgrounds that will service, labor service for the church.
For their bathroom.
For the Washington.
Can you get one manufactured?
Hey, your nameplate?
The actual washroom or?
Just the stalls.
Just go ahead. The whole thing.
My question / comment is, in the policy, we worded that the same group cannot receive 2 grants the same year. If we award the,
Diva.
yeah, well, if we, because the Diva is still on hold, technically. Personally, I see both groups as being like a valid request. I'd be more inclined to approve the request for $2,000 right away, so they can move forward with their renovations. But is there something stopping us from granting for the Diva as well if we go through, if they go through the same?
Yeah, they obviously they're trying to use a mechanism to be more transparent in how they expunge the funds. I think that's what the concerns was because they were not incorporated or they didn't have a bank account, registered bank account for their group. That way, it's sort of administered by a community group and they, they're accountable to the community group. It would be, the grant application would still be awarded to Good Deed Divas. We would just ask them to modify the payment, how they would like to see that paid. Obviously, I suspect that if their initiative is successful, they'll more than likely ask for more funding in the future. And we'll be able to then, ask for more questions to be accountable in the new application form. So obviously, council has the line right to provide the grants to more than one group, but obviously there's a policy in place. But this is not it wouldn't be considered two grants to the Sapid Hip Association. It would be one grant for the Sapid Hip Association, the other through Good Deeds Divas. They would just use the Sapid Hip's bank account to offer their programs.
It's like a care.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, my concern is just, I don't want to create a precedent where, group from another locality would say, well, they received twice. Or they used.
I just want to touch on that for a second. I'm going through this here. And what's the plan? Where specifically does it say can't receive twice? Doesn't the looking at it
Can
says-
we, I thought we were like,
I know there was discussion.
we discussed it, but I'm looking through it.
I thought it was twice in the same calendar year. Maybe I'm wrong.
We'd have to look at the policy where that is.
But if we go to, like, I'm satisfied with,
It would be in care of, but tonight, again, we're not making a recommendation for Good Deeds Divas because there's still some questions left to be answered. But obviously, the Sapid Hip is the type of grants that we would expect to receive from community centers as they deliver services to our residents, and we feel the recommendation of the full amount should be accepted by council.
I think, given the fact that they have the volunteers, it's a nice community effort, the money's there. I think we should just move ahead with it.
Anything else? Now take a motion to adopt the item and then move it
almost.
by David.
It is all that the council grant the following grant for spring 2024 as per grant policy P07 of the amount of $500 will be given to the Club de Sensitive.
I'll take it. That's what this is. Sorry. You're not receiving the votes
Here,
Oh, sorry.
I sent the proxy.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Receiving the vote. All those in favor of the motion, give show their consent by saying nay.
Yeah.
All those opposed, say nay. Motion carried. On to the rural plan.
so on the rural plan question, we received a order to comply on a property located on Route 115, bearing PID, PID 700804878, which was building without a permit. I did speak with the owner of the property last week. They also communicated with Plan 360. Yes. And they are going to demolish, wishes to oblige with the order to comply, which is to remove everything on that property. But there is always a possibility that other constructions could happen. So our recommendation would be to at least move forward with the resolution. So should there be any other structures being erected without the issuance of a permit, we could readily move forward with legal action to correct the situation. So that's our recommendation.
The legal action, would it be something where, once again, if I have a piece of land and I have somebody that's not me build on that piece of land, which is her there, or if not her building it, it is her son that is building the things. Is it her that becomes legally responsible and not him, even though he's the one building, even though she might not know about it, everything else? Like, does he, would it not fall back on him at all?
Responsibility lies with the owner of the property. So if the owner of the property has any activity that he or she does not wish to see, it's their responsibility to remedy that situation. We can obviously just enforce the act.
Yep.
Or there could be lack of conformity through legal action. So the action could be taken on the property.
I guess if she wanted action against her son, then she was giving a trespass notice or something.
Yeah. Again, that does not belong to us.
Yeah.
You know, we can just look at remediating the current
Yeah, that comes back.
conformity compliance that's currently not there, which was a building without.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Now take a motion to adopt the item. We have no.
So I'm just a little confused. Are we incurring legal fees for something that may be moved at this moment? Or?
We, this would authorize council to incur fees should we require it.
Okay. But
At this point, you know, if we always act or want people to act in good faith when they reach out to us, we'll give the owner time to remediate. But should it not be remediated, should the issue pop up again, we can act swiftly to remedy the situation before it escalates to a full-blown legal remedy. There would be many conversations that were to happen to try to not go the full depositing a action against the property legally through the courts. Letters would be drafted and things of that nature to try to expedite and remediate prior to. No fees will be incurred. If it's remedied within the next, we'll say foreseeable future, no fees will be incurred by the municipality unless there's another order to comply that's issued. We do have authority to move forward because of this resolution.
Okay. Any other questions? No. Good. Now take a motion to adopt the item. Do we move it?
I'll move.
Mind reading?
Whereas Plan 360 issued a recommendation for legal action on the property bearing PID 700804778. Be resolved that council take legal action on the property bearing PID 700804778 to rectify the contravention to subsequent 2.6A of the Westmoreland Albert Planning Area Rural Plan.
Second. That's a lot. We'll now proceed with the vote. All those in favor of the motion show their consent by saying yea. All those opposed say nay. Motion carried.
So the last topic on the agenda, we had a presentation last month on from Our Lady of Joy Mission Inc., which wishes to establish a cemetery in the rural community. Again, the Cemeteries Companies Act are responsible to provide the issues or the permit to operate. But within the act, the local government must grant permission for
the cemetery company to establish themselves within that territory. So it would simply require a resolution from council to move forward with this request. We are also recommending that we add language that will require that any permitting that is required be issued prior to any use or any, it's not the language I was going to use, but thank you for recommending, but before any establishment is made on the property, that should any permit be required, that they must acquire one from Plan 360, notably the development permit. Or if any structure is built, a building permit to on the property.
Any questions? No. Now take a motion to adopt that, we have a mover. I'll move it. What do you think?
Whereas Our Lady of Joy Mission Inc. plans to establish a cemetery in the Stouffville area. Whereas the requirements related to requests to create, modify, or expand a public cemetery pursuant to regulation 94-129 under the Cemetery Companies Act require written approval from the council of the local government. Be it resolved that the council of the Maple Hills Rural Community approves Our Lady of Joy Mission Inc. to establish a cemetery on the property bearing PID 01105543 located in Stouffville. If they fully meet the requirements under the Cemetery Companies Act and that they apply for any permit required to Plan 360.
Give me a second. Not proceeding to vote, all those in favor of the motion, show the consent by saying yea. All those opposed, say nay. Carried. Unfinished, do you have any unfinished business?
We do not.
Okay. At this point, we finished all the evidence. Does anyone like to agree with me?
I move.
Anyone?